Today we're out on the hunt for bass and fishing next to a giant blowhole. Hey guys, welcome back to the Foul Anglers. Today we're up early, we're heading out to a new mark that we've not fished before, but the ground looks really promising and the conditions should be perfect for where we want to fish. So we're going to head up, we're going to get there for first light, chuck a couple of lures in and see what happens. So we've got a really cool sunrise, but unfortunately these conditions just aren't what they said they were going to be. We've got groundswell moving through that's probably about 12 foot. We've got a southwesterly wind, so it's blowing sort of straight through us.
In conditions like these, we're using slightly heavier metal lures, punch out that a little bit further, hopefully seek out a bass.
In January, you can still find bass on the open coast if you're lucky. However, most of the time they will be sat tight to the seabed, all congregating together in coastal areas just like this before they move further offshore in February and March to spawn. This morning I started off with smaller soft plastics casting with the wind. However, at the minute we've got probably a 20 to 30 mile an hour wind going that way, and then the tide is ebbing off going that way. So with wind against tide, it makes it very difficult to fish with soft plastics in these sort of conditions. So I've actually switched over to a fish power tail 35 grams to try and give me that extra bit of depth, just to get down there where the bass are hopefully sitting. For general inshore bass fishing, off the shore and off the boat, but mainly off the shore, I'll run you through the setups that we're sort of using. On all three of these setups, we run about 20 pounds breaking strain braid. My rod, I've got a tailwalk high tide 9 foot, 7 to 35, paired with an Authority 2500 high speed. Ollie's got a Daiwa BG sea bass paired with a 3500 spin fisher. And Reese has got a tailwalk high tide 7 to 35, 8 foot 6, paired with a 3000 size Vanford. So a 3000 size reel and a casting weight rod from 7 to about 35-ish is sort of perfect for bass fishing, and then ranging anywhere from about 8 foot to 10 foot people tend to use.
When it comes to both shore fishing and bait fishing, we both use an app called Navionics. I had plenty of questions in the other video about what sort of app this is like, so I'll explain it here now quickly. So basically, this shows you the depth contours of the ground you're fishing over. If you're fishing over reefs, it will show you the rocks and it will show you how deep the water is. And if you're fishing over sand, it will show you that flat bottom sand and obviously the depth as well. This can be really useful for finding new marks and using on your existing marks, because you can figure out where the rocks are, where the higher up bits are, and where the fish will be sat on what state of tide.
In situations like this, when conditions aren't quite what you were promised, all you can do is make the most of it. So we're going to head round to a mark that we fish not too regularly, but sometimes, and we're going to show you guys something that is really, really special. You don't get this in many places in the whole of the UK. It's going to be incredible. So we're going to get there now. It'll probably be a fair trek, but we'll head over there and we'll show you what it's about. So there we go, we've just parked up, ready to walk to the new mark. We've got about a 15-minute walk ahead of us, nice countryside, and then we'll be at the mark. And yeah, it's condition-wise, we could see it from the other mark we were at, and it didn't look too bad. It looked a bit choppy, but hopefully it should be fishable. So fingers crossed, make the most of it, and we'll head down now. So this mark we're heading to actually has a giant blowhole. This is one of the first marks we properly fished on the open coast way back in the day. And we accidentally stumbled across it, and we're just going to head back today. So we've got a really big, probably 12 foot southwesterly groundswell, which brings the swell right into the blowhole. So it should hopefully be absolutely pumping, and it should be really cool. We should be able to get some awesome footage. As for the fishing wise, it's high tide now and it's ebbing off. We're about 2 hours into the ebb, so we're going to be fishing over reef and bommies, which are sort of We're sort of looking at probably fishing into 3 or 4 meters of water. This mark carries some really big wrasse, decent pollock and a good bass on its day. So we will we'll see how we do.
Oh, hello.
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 Oh, horsey. Oh, he's not that scary.
No, that's your horsey.
Magic. His skin's so cool.
So we've just made it. Obviously the blowhole is working as we expected. So it's basically just when naturally occurring soft rock breaks away from the bottom, leaving a sort of cave underneath the hard rock. And when a big enough wave pushes in that all the gas behind it gets trapped, it has no other option than to shoot it back out, and that's what you get when the wave comes hurtling back out. Right, let's get some lures on, get back to fishing.
There you go, as you've probably just seen, I got my lure stuck first cast. Luckily, it was a knackered one, so I'm not too fussed, but I lost my leader. As I reeled into it, I could feel that I'd hit a rock as opposed to some kelp, so I moved across the rock to try and pull out at a different angle, but to no avail. So I'll go retie my leader and I'll get back out. I might have realised why we're not really catching too many fish. Just behind me here, where I had the camera set up, about there, and I was fishing, just as I clicked turn off on the camera, I hear a little like, pops up and it sounded like a mini blowhole basically, which is because it is. A dolphin popped up right in front of that rock, right in front of me. First of all, it scared the hell out of me. But yeah, that's probably why we're not catching much, because they're probably patrolling the seabed. And we've seen loads today, not managed to get much footage of them, if any, unfortunately, I don't think. But they're, yeah, they've been playing in the waves, and yeah, just behind me there, it popped up. It was obviously interested in me and probably feeding, so I'll head round the rock to try and sort of avoid it and hopefully catch some fish.
Right, after a quite unsuccessful morning on the hunt for some bass, me and Reese have just popped over to another mark with a bit of a ledge. We've switched over to a drop shot style rig, and we're using some Berkeley gulp, and we're dropping it straight down in hopes of some wrasse.
With rough conditions like this and the wind being right in your face, it does make for some very tricky fishing conditions. As you can probably tell, the water is also very coloured, which can make it harder for fish to fish by sight. Ballan wrasse, like on my jumper here, they fish a lot by smell and just by sense anyway, so hopefully we'll be able to pull up a few, but dragging it across the bottom, usually if they can see it first, it makes for a better wrasse session. But I've got a crazy sand eel on now, bit vibrating in the water, so hopefully that can attract a pollock or maybe even a bass if we're very lucky. So obviously fishing the open coast like this does come with its risks, and that's inevitable. On days like this, it isn't too dangerous if you know what you're doing and you know the mark. I wouldn't advise anyone to go out alone. We've got a VHF radio in the bags and we're all together at all times, and we know this mark really, really well. And on the rocks, obviously, when you've got the swell coming up, they do get a lot more slippy when they're wet, so just be careful. But yeah, we've not got too close to the edge or anything like that, and it's been a pretty safe day. But yeah, if you do go out, just make sure you've got someone with you, bring a radio, and just do what you can, obviously, to make it as safe as possible. Obviously, it does come with just a bit of common sense of just being safe and being aware of what the swell's doing. Obviously, if you get sets of waves, so not all waves are the same size. If you've got small waves coming through, you get big ones afterwards. Just be aware of that. With time running out, this could be our last chance at a fish. We've got Ollie just down there. He's collecting limpets to put on his drop shot rig, and we've got Reese there with a top water lure just to try something different and a final sort of punt at some fish. This spot has proven very hard to fish today, which is unusual for this mark, but if you look down just there, the water is really, really coloured, which is obviously making for some difficult fishing. So there we go, that was you joining us on an open coast session on Cornwall's south coast. Unfortunately, due to obvious weather conditions, the fish just weren't playing ball. The onshore wind makes it really difficult to get those small little lures where we need them. And the water clarity due to the waves hitting the rocks just makes it that extra bit harder. That is the first time we have actually blanked on this channel for a video, but hopefully we've still made it as informative as we can. We've got some cool shots that should still be quite a good video. Make sure you watch this video right here and subscribe. See you in the next one. Come on.